Here we are gathered in this lovely place on the last, the 12th day of the Christmas season, which puts us on the threshold of the feast of the Epiphany. And by way of the gospel appointed for the occasion, we linger in the wake of the Magi, those mysterious travelers who had journeyed so far just to glimpse the countenance of God in the face of an infant. To that infant, that babe in Bethlehem, they presented lavish gifts. But to us, they present a simple invitation, an invitation to participate in their awe. Look in the unexpected places they seem to beckon and discover God's own self revealed so very plainly. These sages, had at first sought the new king in a palace, in an arena of splendor and majesty. But the star they followed led them on beyond the predictable and into the surprising, so they could gaze upon God lying in a manger. Pay attention, the sages seem to nudge us, and be awed by this God who shows up for us and for you in utter vulnerability. Notice this God who inhabits unexpected venues, just so you may, even in the deepest darkness, perceive the light. The awe of the Magi is something we may want to imitate, especially in bleak seasons and hard situations. For to cultivate a capacity such as theirs, for noticing God's unmasking in our midst, is to hone the art of grateful reverence. Leaning into the gospel, I found myself recalling an article I read just the other day. Encouraging people to walk, the author advocates not just for distance, and certainly not for speed, but rather for the ability to look around and notice one's surroundings, for the willingness to be awed and moved to wonder, for being open to seeing the sublime in the mundane. That kind of walking, the author says, is an aid to true health, health of body and health of soul. In some parts of Japan, what they call forest bathing is a not uncommon practice. People linger in the woods to immerse themselves in the wonders of God's creation. There they discover their own capacity for awe. There they experience restoration of mind and spirit. The Church has long believed that Scripture, too, is such an arena for immersing ourselves in God's creative and restorative presence. In praying today's gospel text, I found myself wanting to heed the example of someone I had the good fortune to encounter decades ago. Marjorie, then in her 80s, was a parishioner at Christ Church in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and she met regularly with a group of friends. Self-described language nerds, as was she, they were also deeply intentional people of faith. Some Jewish and others Christian, they gathered to make their way through the Hebrew Scriptures, the Old Testament, in prayerful study. And they did their collective reading in Greek. Why not the original Hebrew, I asked when I learned of this practice, and Marjorie told me why. Some of them were very proficient in Hebrew, as were they all in Latin and of course in English, but they were each somewhat tentative with Greek. Their deliberate choice was the language that would slow them down most, so that they could linger in the nooks and crannies of the text and adopt a leisurely pace, making time for discovery and awe. I want to read scripture like them, I remember thinking. Like Moses, I want to remove my sandals and tread very slowly, very gently, as I venture on holy ground. And so back to the gospel we go. In the wake of sages, both biblical and latter day, who invite us to participate in reverence and awe. Joseph, whom we hear little of in the other Gospels, figures prominently in Matthew's telling of the good news. And here we find him oh so available for conversation with God. God, it seems, is a frequent inhabitant of Joseph's dreamscapes. And when God prompts, Joseph responds. This man who had heeded the call to marry an already pregnant Mary, this man who became, because of a divine nudge, a tender foster father of the infant Jesus, now hears God issue an alert. King Herod, he learns, who was unsettled by the Magi's pilgrimage, has enacted a terrifying edict. Jealously safeguarding his throne and crown, Herod reacts with the paranoid frenzy of an earthly tyrant. He orders the massacre of every infant who might be a potential usurper of his power. Take the child and go. Flee to Egypt, God urges Joseph. Egypt, an unlikely place, a land Joseph's ancestors had once fled as they escaped the reach of a previous earthly tyrant. And yet, in a season when the promised land is occupied by Rome, in an era when despots such as Herod prevail, to Egypt does the infant Christ go. Egypt becomes his sanctuary, and there the Holy Family seeks refuge. God chooses Egypt for them as a place of grace. And Jesus, who in his humanity sought hospitality in unlikely places, receives that hospitality from people most unexpected. To walk with Joseph then, to immerse ourselves in the landscape of the Magi, is to perceive the light that pierces every darkness. It is to notice with hushed awe God unmasked among us.